Hello everybody, my name is Michael or Karatzi. Let's get some of that nice in music. Anyways, it's been a while. It has been a while, everybody. Now, I guess I should get some things out of the way. Now if you've paid attention to me on Twitter or my blog, you'll already have been caught up with sort of what's been going on in my life and stuff like that. For all the people who are subscribed to this channel for the Magic the Gathering stuff, do not fret, I will be making more Magic stuff in the future, as well as a variety of things if you're interested in that. This will no longer be a strictly Magic the Gathering channel. Now, if you saw my last announcement video that I made before leaving on a journey into Twitch, I went to Twitch for a little while, and I grew my channel and got enveloped in Twitch a lot more than I expected, to be honest. And so I sort of put YouTube on the back burner. And now I'm back to it because I just don't have the time for Twitch anymore. I have to pay attention to real life stuff, yada yada yada. I won't go too in depth on that. If you've been reading my blog, which I'll link in the description below, and I'll also be hosting this video on my blog, or if you've been following my Twitter, which you can see in the bottom right, I'm at Karatzi. If you wouldn't mind following that, that'd be awesome to keep updated on all things me. And so if you've been paying attention to that stuff, you'll know what's been going on, so I don't really need to dive too much into that. This is going to be a Hearthstone video, obviously. I've been super into Hearthstone in the past few weeks. I've just started playing it more frequently. I played it when it first came out, but I didn't really get into it, because that was during sort of when I was just enveloped in Magic, essentially, and I just didn't have the time to dedicate to both, and I just loved Magic the Gathering. Now, this game has grown, obviously, and so I'm back into it, and I love it. It is an extremely fun game. Do not worry, I still play Magic, but I'm strictly paper, pretty much. I just don't, since I don't have a job currently, I'm still looking for a job. I don't have the money to do both. Now, I know Hearthstone, one thing I like about Hearthstone is it is much more accessible to start getting cards. There's a smaller card pool, plus the way their free-to-play system works. It actually isn't too hard to start getting some packs going, especially with the initial gold quests that you can do, beating the AI bots and stuff like that, and getting your heroes to level 10. You can get 700 gold right off the bat, which is easily able to buy 6 packs, which you have a chance to get a legendary to dust for to disenchant for dust, as well as you can pick up some basics and stuff like that. I did get the next Rammus pack. That's pretty much the only way I really spent a lot of money on this game, because I didn't, for that, that would take a while to unlock all the wings using the free-to-play currency, which is gold. You can see in the bottom right there, to unlock the wings of Nax Rammus, and a lot of the Nax Rammus cards from that expansion are just so useful in a lot of my decks. So, yeah, this introduction has gone long enough. This is a Hearthstone video, and I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite cards that I've been playing with recently. Now, this is going to be attached to a blog post talking about my first sort of steps into ranked play. As you can see, I am ranked 19. Currently, almost 18. I'm currently on a win streak, which is pretty sweet. These are the decks that I have so far, and I'll probably go into those more in-depth on a later video and blog post. Whatever, I'm not really sure which one I want to do. Maybe I'll do both. I really like the system of maybe having a video attached along with a blog post, depending on what the subject is, just so it gives you two different kinds of content. It gives you just some things to read, as well as, it's a little bit easier for me to talk about certain things just in a video form. So, oh, this quest goal one, by the way, is the daily quest for today was just play 30 minions that have a cost 2 or less. So I'm essentially going to have like one slot just for quest goals, because some quest goals are much easier than other ones. Like, for example, my regular decks have a bunch of stuff that's over 2 cost. In this deck, I literally just threw in a bunch of 1 and 2 drops just to fulfill the daily quest really quickly. So I actually won a lot of the games because it's just a to the face hunter. It's just a very aggressive hunter deck, and it's surprisingly, it's a very boring deck to play, but, it gets the job done. Because I'm only, a few weeks really into Hearthstone, I don't really have that much of a collection. I have opened packs just from gold and getting, I've done some arena stuff, but I really suck at arena, so, but I have purchased some packs with the gold, and I have gotten a couple of legendaries, other than the Nax Rammus ones, because obviously the Nax Rammus ones you can't disenchant. But I have gotten 2 legendaries from just booster packs. Sadly, one of them is Tinkmaster Overspark. which is this guy. He is a legendary, so I'm gonna wait. I don't know if Blizzard is gonna change him, but if for those of you who don't play Hearthstone, if Blizzard changes a card, like nerfs it or buffs it, you're able to have a brief period of time where you're able to disenchant it for the full amount, which would be 1,600 rather than 400, because it costs 1,600. Legendaries cost 1,600 dust to actually craft. So I'm just gonna wait on it. I don't really need the 400 dust right now. I'm pretty content with some of the stuff that I have now, but I did pick up also the Black Knight, which is a really sweet legendary that I actually wanted. I actually wanted the Black Knight for some of my decks. So yeah, I'm gonna just go through the neutral cards and just talk about some of the ones that I really enjoy. A lot of them do include the Next Rammus cards. Later on, because of my card pool, being a new player and all, it's just so tiny. Like for example, like these are the only Druid cards that I have. These are the only Hunter cards that I have. I really have nothing. I have very few cards for class-specific things, I guess, is the best way to put it. But, you know, because of the Next Rammus cards and just playing in general, I have a fair amount of the basic cards. Of course, not very much, but definitely more than I started out with, of course. And so I'm going to just talk about some of my favorite ones. Alright, so first off, the way I evaluate cards, it's from a new player's perspective, of course. So anyone who's watching who's like a veteran of Hearthstone or who is much higher up in the ranks than I am, well, this is not the video for you. I mean, if you're looking to listen in on a take of someone who's just newer to Hearthstone, then feel free to listen in. But other than that, not too big of a deal. No worries. And yeah, let's get on with it. So Zombie Chow is the first right off the bat. It's a Next Rammus card that you get from the Next Rammus expansion. It's just awesome. I have it in so many of my decks, especially just control decks and stuff like that, where you really just want an early drop where you can use to trade with. It lasts a while, and even in an aggressive deck, I mean, if you're able to just have it stay on the board, well, it's just, you know, sure, it gives your opponent 5 health, but really in the long run, since most of the time you're playing it in a control deck or something like that, it's really not that big of a deal, because it just allows you to trade really well with a lot of other early drops and still stay on the board. So it's meant to play more of a control aspect. Ancient Watcher I actually am looking forward to playing. Now there's actually a deck that I'm already thinking of that's going to have both Zombie Chow, Ancient Watcher. It's going to be a very aggressive deck, and going off on a little tangent here, it's actually going to be using, where is it? It's the card that gives that silences all your minions. Wailing Soul. So the idea for the deck that I'm having is just playing a lot of well-valued cards, just very aggressive cards. So like the Ogres, for example, are a perfect example of that. You know, they have the downside of 50% chance of, you know, hitting the wrong target. But with, you know, if you're silencing all your cards, sure, they're losing their effects, but a lot of the goal of the deck is essentially playing a lot of cards that have a downside, but are well valued stat wise. So you're able to control the board fairly well. Like, I mean, once you have the Wailing Souls on the board, I mean, Ancient Watcher's a 4/5 for 2, which, I mean, people already know Yeti is a great card, 4 mana for 4/5. So Ancient Watcher is just an uber version of that once you actually have that on the field. And, you know, I'll have more, you know, just to increase the chances of you being able to activate it. You'll have cards like Owl and other silence cards where you're able to just make use of it. But anyways, yeah, Ancient Watcher is another one of my favorite cards. Echoing Ooze is actually a fun card that I really like in an aggressive deck. Now, it works really well with cards like, where is it? Again, I'm new, so I don't really I haven't memorized every single card yet. Shattered Sun Cleric, for example. You know, any card that gives a permanent buff to Echoing Ooze, you just make really good use out of it. It spreads out your board a little bit, so it's much easier to have something left over, even if your opponent trades with one of the Echoing Oozes. You know, if you buff it next turn, you're able to just have more powerful thing the following turn. It just has some staying power. I mean, you're getting you're getting 2 power and 4 health worth of cards for 2 mana. So I like that. I like that a lot. The oozes by itself aren't that great. I mean, it's a 1-2 for 2 essentially, but because it's sort of spread out, it's a little bit of a trade-off. I think in certain decks it works really well, of course more so than others. Haunted Creeper, I like Haunted Creeper and, you know, cards like Harvest Golem and stuff like that. I just love those types of cards. Death Rattle is just a huge effect that I really, really love, and I actually have a deck built around that. So, Nerubian Egg is another one. You know, just being able to have some staying power over Wrath effects. I really, really hate Wrath effects, and Nerubian Egg is just so good at that, especially when you combine it with certain buffs where you can use it to trade and then still have a 4/4 left over, or if you give it Taunt or something like that, it's just really, really sweet. What else? Acolyte of Pain I really like in my Warrior deck. I love drawing, just like in Magic, I love drawing cards, and the same applies to Hearthstone. I mean, obviously there are more, you know, requirements to draw cards usually, but you know, you have a smaller deck, so it's not like you really want to draw a ton of cards all the time, depending on circumstances and how long the game's gonna go. What else? Little Exorcist. So this is actually an interesting one. I don't know how well this is, to be honest, but against aggressive decks, I really like having it. I'm gonna craft another one probably, actually. So before I was actually, you know, for an early taunt creature, I was using Ironfur Grizzly. So compared to that, it's you're losing 1 power, but you only need your opponent to have 1 Death Rattle minion on the board to be able to make it better. So it's just a 3/4 for taunt at that point. And it is, you know, against aggressive decks like Hunter decks or Zulok decks, a lot of those early drops have, you know, Death Rattle on them. So it's not very, you know, it's very frequent I'm getting a 3/4 for 3 with Taunt rather than a 2/3 for 3 with Taunt. And, you know, there are even times where I get a 4/5 for 3 with Taunt, which is really, really solid. Not only that, you know, at that early in the game, you're able to use it quite offensively rather than just having it stay on the board as well, and just sit on the board, because it's not like it temporarily gets +1/+1. You know, I think it's a cool effect. Not really sure how good it is. I don't really see it being played, but I don't know. I like it. Shade of Naxxramas is another, of course, Naxxramas card, as you can tell by the name, and it's just especially in a sort of a more controlling deck, I like to just play it and then sit on it for a while. You know, it usually grows to a point where Wrath doesn't deal, you know, Wrath effects can't reach it, even in stealth, and, you know, because it's stealth, it can't be targeted by hard removal. So I just like being able to protect it, and sit around it for a while until it's like a 4/4 or a 5/5, because at that point you're also been playing stronger minions at that point, and then you can, you know, it allows you to really control the board and just play a little bit more strategically. And, you know, worst case scenario, if you need to start racing, by the time you need to start racing, it's like a 4/4 or a 6/6 or something like that, and you can just start hitting the face. So I really like the card, and, you know, depending on when you play it, like, of course you could play it and then they could play a 2-mana Wrath, like a Consecration or something like that. So that's the risk you have to take. But of course, those types of cards you can really play around with. And even then, you can play it, and if it's the only card on your board, you know, it's very unlikely they're going to use up a Consecration or some Wrath effect just for that single card, unless they're really worried about it. And even then, it's a win for you, because then it protects future cards from being Wrathed. So I like it. I like it a lot. Baron Rivendare. This is a legendary from Naxxramas, and I have some decks that are built around it. I mean, I love the Death Rattle effect, and you're just making you're getting so much value out of cards like Nerubian Egg, Harvest Golem, Haunted Creeper, you know, cards like that. Any Death Rattle, any Death Rattle effect, you're essentially getting value out of. Of course, it doesn't really go well with cards like Dancing Swords, or anything that gives your opponent value, like Deathlord. Now, of course, you could play a deck that's like a mill deck maybe, and get an extra, you know, make your opponent draw an extra card. I don't know. It's just a random interaction. But mainly I'm using it just to get extra value out of cards like Nerubian Egg, and just it allows you to keep more cards in your hand while still progressing your board, because it allows you to trade, have the Death Rattle trigger twice, and essentially have a bigger board than you did before. So with the Death Rattle creatures, I really like it. Defender of Argus, just a solid card. I mean, it can really just change the state of the board, which is what I like, especially depending on what cards you have on the field. For example, if you have a Nerubian Egg, well, you can give it +1/+1 and taunt and make your opponent attack it, pretty much unlocking it. I like it. It's just a better version of Sun Fury Protector. But even Sun Fury Protector I sometimes would play. I actually just opened up a Defender of Argus from a booster pack, so I need to make another one. What else? Lotheb, another legendary from Naxxramas. Just a really, really good card, especially because I always hate going up against mages, like mech mages, because they have a lot of really annoying spells. And I also hate going against druids who have the Savage Roar combo. It definitely at least stops them from doing that for a turn, and sometimes that's all you need against them. Because it's an end game combo, so unless they've gotten the ramp to do it much earlier, well, by that time, hopefully you've had a board state to make use out of. Sludge Belcher, just a really, really good taunt. It is 1 more mana than Sen'jin Shieldmaster, but I really like the fact that you get just another taunt creature after that, and especially combined with stuff like Baron Rivendell, you just get extra value off of it. Black Knight was the other legendary. I haven't played around with it yet, but I actually wanted it. There's a lot of times at end game where they play a big taunt creature that I normally would have won the game with. And of course you have cards like Owl and other silence effects, but you're not really removing the creature. The thing I like about Black Knight is, you know, a 4/5 for 6 is pretty crappy stat-wise, but because you're playing it and progressing your board while destroying part of their board at the same time, and allowing your minions to get through, that's just, no, I like that. I like that a lot. And Kel'Thuzad, I like another Naxxramas legendary. It dodges Big Game Hunter, which is what I really, really like about it. And a 6/8, you know, an 8 toughness body is just really, really good to have. Now, by the time you play this, you essentially have, like, in the deck that I have it in, I have cards like Sludge Belcher and other Death Rattle minions. So being able to play Kel'Thuzad and just pretty much trade all your minions up and clear your opponent's board, and then just have them come back. You know, it makes it so you don't really have to play more if you don't want to. Once I play Kel'Thuzad, I essentially just fill my board up pretty quickly, even though they're with lower value minions and, you know, that aren't really the strongest, because you're pretty much able to trade with them fairly frequently and just still keep your board state. It forces your opponent to have hard answers for Kel'Thuzad, and, you know, Kel'Thuzad itself hitting for 6 is fine with me. Sea Giant is a card I got from a booster, and I'm really liking it just as a top end threat. A lot of the time, especially against Mech Mage and stuff like that, it's very rare I play it for, of course, anything 7 or up. I'm usually playing it for 6, maybe even 5, which is great. 8 for 5, I mean, it forces them to deal with it. And if I have a taunt effect or some other effect that can either protect it or make your opponents have to deal with it with more than just one card, it's good for me. And because you're playing it for 5 or 6, you're able to have enough mana over left to either activate your hero ability or just play more things. So I really like the card. But yeah, that does it for some of my favorite cards. Now, like I said, my collection is not very large, and as you saw, a lot of the cards I do love playing with, they are Naxxramas cards. So to anyone who's on the fence about Naxxramas, and like who's a newer player like me, I recommend getting it, whether it be just purchasing it outright, or using gold to buy the wings as you earn enough gold. Now you can, for those of you who don't know, you can actually buy like the wing with gold, which is 700 gold, which is quite a lot. But you can buy a wing, and then if you choose to purchase the rest of Naxxramas with real money, it'll be at a lower cost. So don't worry about having to spend more if you end up buying certain wings with gold. But I definitely recommend it. A lot of the cards you get in there are just, a lot of the cards you get from there are playable. Cards like Shade of Naxxramas, Zombie Chow, cards like that. They're played in a variety of different decks. and Nerubian Egg, for example. You know, they're cards that you can't craft, so and they're just really, really good cards. Not to mention the legendaries that you get for them are just really, really good. Cards like Lotheb, for example. I mean, they're just good legendaries, and if you're a newer player who can't craft legendaries yet, well, Naxxramas might be useful for some of the decks you're building. So that does it for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what your favorite cards are, whether it be commenting on my Twitter, commenting on the video, or commenting on my blog. Let me know what your favorite cards are and how your experiences early on in Ranked were when you were a Hearthstone player. If you have any other cards you'd recommend me maybe crafting, or if you think, for example, like Little Exorcist, do you think it's actually playable or not? You know, let me know. I am a newer player, so I'd like to get all the information that I can about the game, and yeah, hopefully be out with some gameplay videos soon. And hopefully I'll take you guys through my journey into Ranked now that I'm past Ranked 20, where you can actually lose stars. So that does it for me, guys. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Karatzi, and also follow my blog at mygamermind.wordpress.com. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed, and I'll be having a variety of different content, all things gaming, for this channel, card games and video games alike. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested in it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'm glad to be back, and yeah. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.